As this is the introduction session, I will touch base with only the basics and the fundamental topics that are related with QA and the software testing. And in detail, we will see in the course. While we are going and touching up the topics in detail in the course, we will learn more about it. Okay. So if we analyze, we will know that why we are doing all the testing by putting additional effort is to ensure that our products are of quality products, right? So let's start with this basic word quality. What exactly is quality? What we understand by the word quality? Okay. Okay. Okay, so what exactly is quality? So when we say quality, few people may say that I want something which is robust, which doesn't break. Some people may say that, okay, that when I buy something which is branded, for say for that matter, if a watch, a cell phone which is branded or which is latest in the market, that's quality for me because that brand, when I say Apple, it is a branded name for me. It gives me an image. So when you talk with people, the word quality meaning will change from person to person, right? So let us take an example that suppose we are shifting our house from one locality to the other locality. So typically we will approach packers and movers, and we'll get from two, three packers and movers different quotes. Okay, how much are you charging? What all services are you going to provide? And all that, right? So now let's say randomly, let me ask you, if you are shifting a house from one locality to other, what is the thing you will look for in a packers or mover? What kind of a service you look for? Anybody can tell. Let's see your view of what you exactly look for in a packers and movers. Anybody?
Yeah, this is Sridevi. So I would ask them if I need to pack all my items or
Hmm.
they come and help with the actual packing of the items, like, some things like obviously the cups and things like that, that would like a crystalware.
Right.
And what kind of methods do they use to wrap the items?
Hmm. Right.
And so do they move all at one time? How they will they use the truck, what kind of truck? So I will ask the packing material.
Right. Anybody else? What will you look for? Maybe Ravindra, Ravi?
I would ask for references
Mm-hmm.
so that way I can call the references and find out their experience.
Okay. So if no references, then what exactly you will look for? Like what are kind of a minimum services that you look for to select a packer and mover out of two or three options that are available to you?
Somehow figure out their quality of service through Googling or finding out the features they have with their what they advertise, see what best fits my need.
Correct. Yeah. So, like, if you see here, Ravindra was very quick on just seeing the references. If you get a good reference, is good to go. But when Sridevi was giving, she has really what we say that, okay, yeah, I need the person who is having a good truck transport, who is how, what is the material they are going to use, all those different factors. So the criteria which Ravindra is going to use and what Sridevi is going to use or what I will be going to use may differ from person to person, right? So based on what I really care for, I will just look that the packers and movers is going to give me that service or not. Like whether they are nicely packing it, what kind of material they will use, whether they ensure there is a insurance if there is any damage done during their transport. All those things are the different things, and this will change from person to person. So when we look at the quality term in layman's term, it is something which is fitness for purpose. Like for my need, is it fitting or not? If the product is fitting my purpose, I'd say that it is a good quality product. But business or market doesn't run by person's perspective, right? So when we go into the business aspect, or when we go into the business, quality can be defined as what is needed by the market, what the customers are needing, or what is the best practices or things available in the market which the industry is using, like different standards, different certifications that are available, that will tell the quality of your products. Okay, so this is what exactly is quality, right? So when we go for software quality, when we say that in software industry, the customers, end users, certification bodies, these all are the people who actually dictates the terms and conditions of the product when it is being launched. Okay, Alfred, you have a question? Please go ahead. Alfred? Okay. I'm audible to everyone, right?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So in software industries, when these people actually dictates, okay, this product can be good quality or not so good quality, average range, these all are the people who are actually deciding this. So if we apply the same analogy of the term quality from our day-to-day scenario to the software industry, then for few, the software which is secure, right, which doesn't get hacked by various people, is more quality product. For few, it may be compliance, like when you're going and buying an automobile industry, there you will look for pollution certification and different other robustness certification before you actually go and buy the product, right? So a broader definition of software quality is something which meet the customer, end user, certification agencies specification and needs. Okay, so this is the main keyword, like what exactly is software quality. So software quality is something which will meet the end users, customers, and certification agencies needs and the specifications that are laid out by them. Okay, any questions on the term quality or the software quality? Okay. So if you can see the screen, these are the definitions that are being laid out on the word software quality by different organization. ISTQB is the Testing Qualification Board, International Software Testing Qualification Board. This is the main board which actually will certify a lot of QA people and other standards terminology is being set by this organization. IEEE, as you all know, is a international standard. So the definition per this are being listed here, like what per them is the software quality. So per ISTQB, the software quality is the totality of functionality and features of a software product that bear on its ability to satisfy stated or implied need. So what are the stated and implied needs are actually coming from your clients when they are telling you this is my requirement, this is what I want. All that is being listed by the customer or your client, and when your software is satisfying all those implied and explicit needs, then your software is of good quality. Is it clear? Is it clear, or do any of you want me to repeat this?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, sure. Thank you. So now let's move on to today's main topic. This is software testing. Okay. So per ISTQB, again, the organization, the process, this organization mainly is the organization which is dictating the terms when any terminology we are using related with the software quality testing. Please refer to this ISTQB because this is the standard which is being used across the nation. So it is an international standard, so you will get a common terminology which will be able to relate across the organization. Otherwise, there are terms which are being referred or inferred in different way in different organization. So if we use ISTQB language, it will be universally accepted terminology. Okay. So per ISTQB, it is a process, software testing is a process of executing a program or application with the intent of finding the software bugs. So the whole purpose why we are doing the software testing is to find the bugs which are being laying in your product and which can affect your product functionality, or it can uh, come out when the client is using it. Okay, so the whole intent is to find the software bug. So when we are doing software testing, if you go to way back, there was just a coding, then they will do a unit testing, and then based on the user acceptance test, they just release into the market. But later, afterwards, they started seeing that there are lots and lots of problems that the customers are facing that may be causing them to have a monetary loss, to have a life loss, and all that when there are bugs which are left unattended in the product. So that's the stage when they actually started this additional step. Because in software testing you are hiring more people, adding more time. When you're adding this additional step, your time to market, the time you are going to take to deliver your product from the starting to your market has increased, right? So why do you guys think that this software testing as an additional step by an independent tester is been added in the software lifecycle? Anybody have any thoughts on this, like when it is adding additional resources, additional time, why we need this thing when, because the coder actually does the testing of his product?
Coder may not have time to test it thoroughly.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the reputation of the company is at stake. If obviously the product is released and even if there is a one bug, depending on, like you said, it may be used in the hospital, or it could be used in airlines, something that can change somebody's life. So one bug could be fatal in some way. So I think it makes sense to have a separate team or quality test engineers to have the time so that the coder is not responsible. And also it's fresh from somebody else's point of view because the coder is already have been working on the product. So it's better for somebody else to actually test their product.
Right, you are rightly pointed it out. So in the same context, if we go and see the in Google and search for the accidents related due to the software bugs, you will get tons and tons of it in that. Okay, so because of these losses, you can have a loss in life. It can be a reputation loss. You can be have credibility which is at loss, right? It takes so many years to build a credibility for a company or organization, and with a single bug, you can just lose it overnight. It can have a monetary loss, and you can imagine what all it can happen based on the bug that is going to come out. Okay, so one such example is the Mariner 1 spacecraft mission. Okay, so in 1962 there was a mission which was started by the NASA to put it onto the Venus. Okay, the spaceship was going to Venus, is barely made it to Cape Canaveral when a software coding error caused the rocket to veer dangerously off course, threatening to crash back onto the earth. So you can see it's a very small bug what was there, that there was a simple hyphen which was missing in the code, and which resulted in the erroneous calculation of the path what it was supposed to take. Okay, so as a response, NASA has actually aborted that mission because it was getting dangerous to continue the mission, and it costed $18 million to NASA at that time. So in 1962, $18 million is a huge money, and it's a huge effort and the time that each scientist might have spent on it. So you can imagine a small hyphen in the code can result in such a costly thing. Okay, so that's the whole thing. In summary, software testing is a process used to identify the correctness, completeness, and quality of developed software, computer software codes. Okay, so it include activities to perform, which is a main intent or the first main purpose of quality assurance is to find errors in the software so that the product can be corrected well in time before you are actually going and handing it to the customer. Okay, so that is the whole purpose, and this is the main thing when anybody says what is software testing, why you have to do software testing. So this is the main underlying thing. You have to say that it is for finding the bugs before you are actually going and giving it to the customer. Okay, um, is it clear? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I would need a response so that I will know that whether you need additional examples or you need more clarification. Okay. Okay. So what is software testing? So if you can see here this diagram, there is a QA. Now we will go through the terms which are most confusing or being misused in the industry. Okay, so we have to set these fundamentals clear before we go into the more detailed topics. Okay, so here you will here in industry QA, QC, testing, verification, validation, all these different terminologies. So we need to understand what is what to really differentiate and talk the correct terms when we are discussing something. Okay, so what is QA? QA is nothing but quality assurance. Quality assurance is basically a process. It is a static process which is used, if you can see here, it is used for the improvement of the development processes, and it will help in the prevention of bugs appearing. So it is a very first step. So in QA, what exactly we do is we just go and do the reviews, static reviews. We are not even, by this time when the QA we are doing, there is nothing done on the software. It is just done on the documents like your requirement documents, like your client specification, SRS documents. SRS is system requirement specification. So all these kind of documents which are actually going to be the foundation for writing the code, for writing the test cases, those are being reviewed. Those are being reviewed to see that they are correct, and the process that is being followed for the development of these documents are correct. Nobody is skipping any of the process steps. Okay, so that is what is the quality assurance the term QA means. Okay, but what is this portion which is in green? That is the basic, that is testing. Testing is the step or the activity in your software development life cycle where actually you are going and performing your test cases or testing the software. So in the green portion, that is in the testing, you will be handling the code. During the QA, there is no code that is being involved. Here you're just seeing that all the processes that I am following and all the steps that I am following to develop the code is correct. That is, the requirements are properly captured, the coding is being done properly, no process steps have been missed, proper reviews have been done. This is what QA does. And once the code is developed, the QA performs the testing on it to find. The whole intent of this testing is to find the bugs in the code. Okay, so it is the green part, testing is done for finding out the bugs. So if you have followed the proper process that have been set out by your organization per the product that you are going to work on, then it is the only coding or the bugs which will be there in the code that you are going to find in the testing. But if you have skipped the steps, you haven't followed the process properly, the requirements are not captured properly, so the whole of the testing or the software life cycle is going to be very hectic and horror for you, because it will be very difficult if somebody is missing any step in between. Okay, so good software will always be a combination of QA, that is following the processes that have been set, uh, coming out with all the documentation that is needed, writing the requirements very clearly so that the downstream people who are referring them can actually implement them very clearly. There will not be any ambiguity there. Okay, so that, and then the QA, which is another major thing, QA testing combined. If you do all these two things very rigidly, you will get a very good software, a bug free software. Okay, so these are the two main activities which needs to be given their due importance. Okay, so is it clear what is QA and what is testing? So if you can see here, quality assurance and quality control, these are the two terms which are interchangeably used in the industry, but that's not correct. Quality assurance and quality controls are two different concepts. Okay, so in quality assurance, if you can see here, it deals with process, and it is for the entire life cycle. So it starts from when your business analyst starts collecting the requirements from the client till you hand over the product back to the customer. So quality assurance will go from the starting till end, because it relates with the process that you are following. Okay, and it is a preventive process, so we are upfront going and checking that did everybody follow. It's kind of, in this process you basically will have a checklist. Okay, like let me give you an example. Like when you are going for your office, or when you're going for a long tour and you're going by your four-wheeler, so what you will do, what all different checks you will do before you are actually starting the ride? Anybody can tell? What are the different things you will check to ensure that you're not going to face any problem? Is my question clear?
Yeah, well, I guess first I would check my tires are not flat or it has a low air, and if I have a enough gasoline in my vehicle. Also, if I see anything unusual when I get into the car, when I would wear obviously my seatbelt, and if I see any kind of signs coming on my dashboard to see if everything is good, then I will start my car.
Right. So here you're actually didn't start driving the car, but these are the preventive, proactive steps that you're taking to ensure that, okay, I'm not going to land up into trouble in future. So that is exactly what is quality assurance. So checking all the things before you're starting is quality assurance. Okay, so what is quality control? So quality control is controlling the quality. Now, how we are controlling the quality is, the coder has done the part of coding, and now he is given the product or the software to the tester. Now the tester is going to go and test that particular code and find out if there are any bugs, mistakes, anything is the defects. So now we have to ensure that these defects are not getting leaked to the customer. So that's how the testing will help you to control that quality. The leakage of defects to the customer you are controlling, and that process is known as quality control. Okay, so quality control has this all the testing steps which we as a QA tester will be doing to, and the main focus will be to find out any defects, bugs, anything that are left in the code. Okay, so if you can see, quality assurance doesn't need code. Quality control process will deal with the product. That means you need to have a software to perform quality control. Okay, and testing is part of quality control. So in quality control, it is a corrective steps because already the coder has implemented it. There are already the issues in it. Now you are going to find it and fix it. So if you can see, quality assurance, it was preventive because we are trying to see that everything is fine before any problem happens. But in quality control, we are trying to find out issues which can create problems or the misfunctionality in the product later part of time. So it is just the corrective portion of it for the mistakes that the coder has done. Okay, and QC or the quality control is having testing as a part of it, because in quality control you have other parts where you will do identifying the test cases, how shall I test that product, writing those test cases, writing the test design, all those also part comes under quality control. And testing is when you actually go and test that thing onto your target. Like in the example of the car, if you actually start and driving it, when you do a test ride, what you are doing, you are basically doing the testing portion of it. When you go for buying a new car, you will always try to do a test ride, right? So you are actually trying to see how the controls work. Is the brake is fine? Is all the what you say turns it is able to take properly? All that what you're testing on the live product is the testing portion of it. Quality assurance, if you see, is the superset which is going to check the processes followed even till the testing. That's the reason quality assurance is the superset, and then comes the quality control, and then comes the testing. So is it clear? Is these three terms clear?
Yes.
Okay. So next, other two terms which are being interchangeably used but should not be used are the terms project and product. Okay, so what exactly is a project? So when you actually develop, if you can see here, project will go through this life cycle. It will be initiated once you get a contract. Then there will be a planning done. Then you will execute per that plan, and then you start seeing that, monitoring it, whether it is going as per the plan or there are any deviations which we have to correct it during the course. And then the project is closed and you are getting the feedback from the customer. So project is basically when you are developing it for one particular customer. Okay, like for say for in the banking domain, you are developing a project which is related with Citibank, okay, or Bank of America. So when you are writing and taking the requirements from them which are very specific to Bank of America, then this is known as project. Okay, when you are dealing with a client, it is not a generic application, it is a particular client for whom you are going to develop a product or develop a software, then it is known as a project. Like developing a software for Bank of America, Citibank, or some other bank, you can say. Okay, but when you come to the product is something which is generally being done in-house in the organization. So products are generally being developed by the organization, where they will monitor different things. Like in the banking domain, they will observe Bank of America requirements, they will see Citibank requirements. There may be some requirement like login feature, how a client should be logged in. There will be a username, then there will be a password, and then you have to log in. So this functionality is going to be common irrespective of which bank you are going to log into, right? So they can decide to make a common functionality or common piece of code to just log in. Okay, so like that, what organization does is it will find out the features which will be usable for multiple customer. When they find such features or functionalities, they will implement them and they package them as add-ons, or they can put it as a independent product. Okay, so that is the difference in the product. So product will suit for multiple users. Like if you say Gmail, you open and use Gmail accounts, right? So Gmail can be used by any people. It is not specific to, okay, if you are a student you can use, if you are a professional you cannot use. It's not like that. It is common application for the entire population, right? So product will be common for everyone, and project is specific to a client requirement. So that's the difference. Product is generally been initiated or been what you can say started, seeding will be done by the organization itself. Okay, so here what will happen, the ideas what you want to build, or the product, you see that there is a need of this in the market, and you start building that product after doing your enough research and getting approval from your management. You start doing that. Then in the growth you are actually trying to understand the market share. If I launch this product, what is going to be my market share? Is it going to be bought by somebody in the market? Is it going to be useful or not? Then in the maturity you will actually start seeing that you have already developed it, and you are seeing any feedbacks that are coming from the market. You are trying to incorporate them into your product. Okay, and then once it is done and you want not to continue that product, and you just want to sunset it, or you want to just close that product, that is how, when it is discontinued or it is been stopped and the phases decline. So is it clear what is a project and a product, or shall I give another example for that?
Clear.
Okay. So next other term is the verification and validation. So as we have learned about QA and QC, the same terms that we can use is the verification and validation. So in verification, we are verifying that the software that we are building is right. That means that whatever project or product or software we are building, are we following the correct specification and we are following the correct processes or not. So if you can see in the example, it is starting from the start. So verification is nothing but your quality assurance, where we are trying to find out that all the steps, whether the foundation of any product is being set properly or not, by seeing that the people have actually followed the correct processes which they are supposed to follow. Okay, so verification is following the correct processes to meet the product specification. Validation is whether we have built the right software. So we are validating whether the coder who have built the software is actually meeting your customer needs. So this is nothing but, validation is nothing but
Quality control.
perfect. right? So validation is nothing but quality control. So verification is quality assurance and validation is quality control, and the validation process actually starts from this is a software development life cycle. We will see different software development life cycle in our course, but this is a V type of a model where actually this side all the requirements or the development phases are listed, and on the right side are the testing phases. So all these testing phases are known as the validation steps or the validation activity. Unit testing is a exception where, because the unit testing actually is done by the coder, he himself will do this. But from integration testing, system testing and acceptance testing, the QA engineers will be involved. Okay, so this will be our main area of interaction or the main area of our contribution towards the product, and which will actually ensure the product quality. Okay. So now as we have different sets of people, different background, the first question comes whether do I have the skills that are needed to become a QA engineer, right? So QA engineer is something which is non-tech, I cannot say a non-technical, but it is a technology independent role. What does a technology independent role means is that now if I am a coder who is going to develop a product in say Java or C or C++, I have to know the language, its interfaces, how it can communicate, its loopholes, everything in detail. Then only I will be able to develop that product. But when I am a QA tester, I don't need to know what language the product is being developed with. I just need to have the skills to find out the test cases on how I can break the code. I can refer the requirement documents and come out with test cases and test them on the product to see that whether the coding is done properly or not. So I'm not that much concerned about whether I know Java in detail, whether I know C++, I know C. All that is not a constraint for a QA engineer. And that's why we say it is a technology independent role. If you have learned Java and you're a Java coder, there can be a good market one time, and maybe tomorrow the whole technology is moving to some other new technology. Maybe you may get outdated or you have to upgrade your skills. But QA engineer don't have that constraint, because for them the main thing is that they should understand the product rather than the language that is being used to develop that product. Okay, so that is the main difference for the QA engineer. So the same QA engineer can go and do the testing for a software which is developed in Java. The same QA engineer can go and do the testing for a product which is developed with the VB or C hash, anything. So the same QA engineer can apply for all these three different positions where the product is developed with three different technologies. And that's the reason QA engineer has more market scope compared to a coder who is very specific with the skill or the language that he has acquired for. Okay, so what are the different skills that a QA engineer will need for is the basic computer knowledge, which everybody of us have nowadays, and then there should be a very good communication skill. Why we need a good communication skill is when we are going and finding out the bugs in the software, you need to go and communicate that to the developer, and there will be always a tussle between a developer and a tester on whether it is a bug or not a bug. So how effectively you are putting to the developer the exact situation and making him see the problem, that's where your good communication skills comes into. how crisply you're writing the defect description that the developer is able to understand what you are trying to intend and understand whether it's a bug, not a bug. So that's where your good communication skill will help. Other thing that is needed is passion or attitude. Why you need passion or attitude is because here every time you may be given a new product. Once you may be in a banking domain, other time you should be flexible enough to go into another domain as well. Okay, so when you are going or changing the products, the QA can perform a better role or the best role when he knows the product in and out, what it is supposed to behave, how it is supposed to behave, right? Like suppose we have a TV and we have a remote control, right? So if we have a knowledge that this remote control is only for the TV, it is not going to work for the DVD, so we will not use it for DVD, right? So that knowledge is very much critical for the QA tester. He need to understand what from the customer perspective his product is supposed to behave like. So for that, that person needs to go above his assignments or the task assigned to understand the product. And for that, you really need that learning or the passion to know the product. Okay, then your analytical skills to think out of the box to create scenarios so that you come out with such test cases that it may break the code. So your intent always should be like a hacker. How can I break the code? Then only you will come out with the excellent test cases and you can execute them and you can perform very nicely as a QA test. So you just should not be reading the line or reading the English text and writing one or two test cases. You need to understand how this product or the coder might have done something wrong in this scenario. So that is known as out of box thinking or the analytical skills that is needed. Documentation is needed for writing your test cases, writing your test designs, and all that will be based in Excel or whichever format that your organization is going to follow. You have to be systematically documenting your observations, your test cases, and should not postpone it to the last thing, because a proper documentation is essential for the success of a product. Okay, so documentation is something else which needs to be mandatorily followed. Then productivity is another main thing which sometimes some people get into this. The problem here is some people say that, okay, I am trying to understand the product and I need time to understand the product. I need time to understand, then only I can write an effective test case. But what we need to understand is organization has their own commitment to the customers. So we need to be very sensitive towards the schedule, what is being given. If any task is being assigned to you, you have to be sensitive towards the time. Or when the assignment is being given, you need to be proactive in telling the manager at the same time, telling that for this task, I guess I'm going to take more time. But if you don't do that and you are doing a PhD into the complete functionality that you are being given to test, like suppose I have given you a task to go and check the login functionality of your Gmail. Enter a username, enter a password, and login. So you have to write test cases to see that whether the login functionality is been properly implemented or not. So now you need to understand how what all things are allowed. Username with alphanumeric characters are allowed or not, whether it can have wild characters or not. All that you need to understand. So you understand those things, but you can't do keep on researching on it or writing the test cases in all possible combination that you are not able to meet the schedule. You can't do that because the whole product will be at stake if you are delaying your tasks. So those things should be clearly communicated and discussed with the manager. If not, the productivity is something which the QA tester has to keep in mind, because the testing comes at the last step of the software development stage, and everybody will be just waiting for your stamp to say that yes, this is a good product, please go ahead and release. So it will be an immense pressure on when you are in a QA tester, when you're learning new things. But this is the key aspect that you also have to keep in mind. Okay, so these are the different skills. If you have, you are very much eligible to become a QA tester. Okay, and if you can see, all these skills can be acquired. There is nothing which is like you have to do some degree or something for getting this. These are the skills, if you determine, you can go and acquire all these skills. Okay, so any questions in the skills? This is just is it clear? Any questions on or any doubts? Like, because somebody was asking, I don't, do I need to learn Java or not? You may not want to learn Java if you're just doing a manual testing. Manual tester just need to understand what is the product, what it has to behave like, and write the test cases, execute them. Okay. So if no questions, these are a brief on like what are the different certification and career opportunities. Again, this timeline may vary. This is just an average timeline uh, that is printed here. Okay, so ISTQB actually gives you a lot of certification opportunities with various categories. Like at 0 to 2 years, you generally will be doing a manual tester job. And then once your experience has grown and you are also knowing the product, and you also know the language in which the product is developed, and you are a little bit inclined towards that, you can go for an automation tester, then a test analyst or the test lead, test manager, and the director. So if you see this designation, even the director position you can achieve without this certification. But how these certification help is it will accelerate your growth. If you have this kind of certification which is universally been accepted, every company acknowledges this certification. So this is a added star mark in your resume. Like ISTQB foundation certification, you can give it when you are doing a 0 to 2 years kind of a thing. Then there is a agile tester, then there is a advanced ISTQB certification, all this. So even without this certification, you can go ahead if you have performed very good and you have met the organization needs. But this is what is also present to grow your career little bit faster. Okay, so that's all that I had today. So anybody have enough any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
For,
Yeah, go
so
ahead.
by the time you finish the course,
Hmm.
you think you'll have enough knowledge to take the ISTB QB testing certification, I mean, by...
Right. This fundamental one, you will have enough knowledge to give that certification.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Also, I have a question regarding the class timing. So it looks like so there is a Tuesday and Thursday class, and a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class.
It's just 3 days in a week. 3 days in a week.
Oh, okay, okay. And what are the different ones? Is it just one? Like, I mean, is it Monday, Wednesday, Friday for some people?
Yeah,
And it's
because
different.
yeah, based on the time zones.
Okay.
Yeah, so the link Michael will send you to all. So I think that will sync you up all to the same time zone. Uh, but it's based
Okay.
on the time zone. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
sure.
So is Michael online too?
Oh, oh no, I think he dropped off.
Okay. So he will communicate to us about the class timings by
Right,
end of Friday.
right.
So other question I have is, so you were mentioning if it's a manual testing,
Mm-hmm.
one doesn't need to have a knowledge of coding, but if one has to move slowly from manual to automated testing, what are the most commonly used, like, the coding things? I mean, what are the software that's used these days for automated testing?
It doesn't depend. Your automation testing doesn't depend upon the coding that you are going to use. Like Java, Java is mostly used in all your web applications, right? The Java coding is something that people use it more often now. But what, as an automation tester, the tools that you are going to use will actually generate the code for you. So you should be having enough knowledge to understand, at least, like, not from the syntax point of view, but from just to understand what that actually line of code is doing. So that level of knowledge, if you have, that should be good. But otherwise, if you ask, it's Java, which for all of most of the web application people are using it. Java, she hash. So did I answer, Sridevi, your question?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
also hearing Python. Is Python also being used?
Yeah, so it's actually depends upon the product. Like if you are just doing onto the web, or what kind of application you are developing. So based on that. So
Okay.
my
Oh,
organization uses Java most of the time. So Python is just for querying. Sometimes we use it, but otherwise not. So it depends upon the organization and the product that it has in its basket. So
okay. Okay.
okay. Anybody else have any question, like Mohammed, Alfred, Pauline, Savi, Shaheen?
Yeah. Hey, my question is like, what is the difference between automation test and manual test? And what is the difference between the automation and manual testing, the tools
Okay.
we're gonna use? Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah. So manual testing, as the word says manual, we have to do it manually. Okay, we have to write the test cases manually. We have to go and perform it. Like if I am going to write a test case for testing the Gmail application, I have to manually go and enter username and password and click on login button when I am doing as a manual tester. But in automation tester, you have tools. There are tools like Selenium, QTP, where you can actually record those actions where you are entering the username, password, and clicking on it. That step you can automate using the tool. Okay, instead of I going and manually typing it, the tool types it for me, and tool will find out what was the expected result that I was expecting and what the actual result is coming. So that comparison, the tool does it for us. That's the only difference. But still, in the automation testing, you have to write the test case. You have to come out with your testing scenarios. Okay. So whether the tool does it for you, the test cases execution, or the person is doing it, is the only difference between the manual and automation testing.
So
Okay.
is there a big pay difference then between the manual tester and the automation tester?
uh, Pay difference in the automation tester, as when you are going as a entry level QA tester, you will most preferably go into the manual tester, because you need to still understand the concept of how to design your test cases, what kind of test cases you should design, all that, right? So if you're coming from the scratch, you will always first start with the manual tester. Automation tester is generally once you have some experience in the QA domain. Like, okay, you understand how things works, what are the how the structure works and all that. Then you actually go and master one of the tool, and then you apply it as a Selenium tester or a QTP tester, like that.
Oh, okay, got it.
Okay.
The second question is why I need the manual test. If I do the automation test, I save the time, I save a lot of things, and then it can be more corrected. Why I need the then manual test? Or is this depend on the company, or how does work?
Yeah,
Thank you.
it depends upon the company, but automation doesn't come for free, right? You have to buy the licenses if you're buying a license tool. If you're going for open source, it has its own problems, but automation you will use only when you are going to repeat those steps. Like if I have to go and log in for the Gmail application 20 times, as a person, I will not be interested, but tool can do it for me. So there needs to be a specific scenario where you want to automate, or if there is just a single instance you want to do, the company would not be interested to go and buy the license and put all that investment. Like the tester has to learn that tool and training, support, everything for that tool is not giving the ROI for the tool if you are doing it for a single instance. Automation will be used only when there are multiple times you are going to use that same test scenario. Okay, so these details, when to use what, these will be detailed covered in the course. Like when we'll go into that manual and the automation testing, we'll cover it why and when, and if you're going for automation, what all things you need to take care, what are the different aspects you need to first analyze to come to a conclusion whether you want to go for automation or not. You can't go for automation for the ROI sake every time. ROI, by the way, is return on investment, like how much you are putting the money. Everybody will actually want to get that return in the terms of profitability, usability, or reducing the time, something. So there should be a valid reason why you would really go. And in the complete project also, there can be scenarios where you just want to automate a very few specific functionalities. Rest all you would want to do as a manual testing. So that all depends upon various factors, which we'll cover in the course in detail.
Hey, is this any like for the automation test? Is there is any open source that we can use it without paying? Like example, like Selenium Web Drive or Selenium ID, those kind of tools is the open source. So we can use it for the automation test too, right?
Right, but open source have lot of problems that if you get into trouble, there is nobody who is going to go and support. You have to rely on the forums or the discussions to find out what exactly is the problem and how to fix that problem. But when you buy a license tool, you have a dedicated support team who will come and solve your problem with a fixed timing. In open source, it's left to your trial and error. So everything has its own positives and negatives. So okay, anybody else have any question? Pauline, Mohammed, Alfred, Savi, or you're good? Okay, if there is no further questions, thank you all for attending this demo session. Michael will let you know all the timings for the formal session starting, the link that you need to connect to, and hope I will meet you all there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.